Queen of the Damned is a movie that was always on at my house. I never used to watch it, but one of my aunts and some of my cousins absolutely loved the film. So I naturally grew up listening to the movie's soundtrack, and I unironically love this soundtrack. I mean, I listen to Static X, Korn, and Disturbed on a regular basis. So, while some people may find that specific sound to be a bit cringy, I can't help but to enjoy it. That heavy nu metal sound just speaks to me personally. But even though I may be a fan of the film's soundtrack, I can't deny that the music isn't good enough to elevate the rest of the movie. Because Queen of the Damned is a surprisingly dull and boring film, especially when compared to its predecessor, Interview with the Vampire. Now, I know these two films exist in separate continuities, but since they are based on books from the same franchise, I feel like the comparison is more than fair. Though I should probably note that I went my whole life without realizing that the two films were related at all. I had no idea. When I discovered that the Lestat from Interview with the Vampire was technically the same Lestat from Queen of the Damned, my mind was blown. Because the two versions are nothing like each other. And that's not just due to the fact that he's played by two completely different actors. Lestat is at such a different point in his life in Queen of the Damned that he might as well be a completely different character. And while he may have reinvented himself as a rock star in this movie, he's somehow way more boring than he ever was before. So, for as baffled as I was to learn that Tom Cruise played a younger version of the character, his portrayal of Lestat was actually my favorite part of Interview with the Vampire. Kristen Dunst obviously did a great job of playing the most interesting character in the film, but I personally loved Cruise's delightfully toxic portrayal of Lestat. And I think that's because, since the movie is about how much it sucks to be a vampire, I enjoyed seeing how much fun Cruise was having in the role. The film would definitely lull when it wouldn't focus on his deliciously toxic energy. By comparison, Stuart Townsend doesn't bring much to the role. He's perfectly fine in it, he's just nowhere near as engaging as Tom Cruise. And that's not necessarily his fault, since Lestat isn't given a whole lot to do in this story. Sure, his music does wake the titular queen of all vampires, but that doesn't really tell me anything about his personality. I don't really know what he wants to accomplish in this film and why. So maybe Lestat is more interesting as a side character than he is as a main character. Speaking of which, Aaliyah's portrayal of Akasha is probably the best part of this movie, though that may have something to do with how awesome her costume is here. She has a look that definitely stands out against everyone else's generic aesthetic. I mean, I couldn't tell you anything about her character either, but at least she looks cool. So, aside from the soundtrack, she's definitely the most memorable part of this movie. And before I officially move on from the soundtrack, I'd like to point out that I'm referring to the music from the actual album and not the music that is featured in the film, because the songs are completely different. Jonathan Davis recorded the music in the film to give Lestat his singing voice, but I think his versions of the songs are absolutely terrible. And I like Davis. But as much as I am a fan of his band Korn, I don't think Davis is the best singer. I honestly wish Chester Bennington provided the vocals for Lestat's singing voice. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge Linkin Park stan. Bennington had an incredibly unique voice that could have worked for the film, especially since he could scream and sing. Regardless, the re-recorded songs that are featured on the album are much better than the ones in the actual film. So, the movie doesn't have a lot of redeeming qualities, which is a shame. As Akasha's malevolent power grows, all of the immortal vampires must stand against her if they want to survive. That sounds like an interesting and engaging premise, but the movie as a whole is neither of those things. The plot is confusing, the characters are forgettable, and the performances are undeniably stiff. All of which makes the movie feel unintentionally cold and lifeless. So, while I may be listening to the soundtrack for many years to come, I don't think I'll ever feel the need to rewatch this film. Especially if the AMC series can depict this story in a more engaging way. Meaning that, if you couldn't tell by the tone of this review, Queen of the Damned would, unfortunately, not get a recommendation from me. Now, I should note that this review was first posted on my website, davidthemovieguy.com, so if you want to know my thoughts early, or if you just prefer to read your reviews, you can feel free to head on over there. But be sure to let me know what you think of Queen of the Damned, and as always, thanks for watching.